Hey everybody, welcome to a new movie review. Today I'm going to be telling you about this is actually several years old now. It is based off of a underground comic book. It's called Ghost World. Um, this is actually one of Scarlett Johansson's, not her very first film, but it's one of her first films. She was pretty young in this. Thora Birch is in this. This is after she did American Beauty and after she did Hocus Pocus, for those who saw that way back in the early 90s. Um, Steve Buscemi and the late Brad Renfro are both in this too. Brad Renfro unfortunately died young due to a drug overdose, I think. But for the actual Ghost World story, basically it's these two high school graduates. I'll show you the picture again. It's Scarlett Johansson, Thora Birch. They just recently graduated high school and they have no idea what they're going to do with their lives. They don't know if they're going to go to college, which jobs they're going to pursue, what their major is going to be if they do go to college. Are they going to live at home? Are they going to live in an apartment together? Are they going to buy a house? Are they going to move in with somebody? They have no idea. And while summer vacation's going on for them, and they're still trying to figure out what they're actually going to do with their lives, they not really don't really get intrigued by this man who collects music and collects records, but um, this guy, I guess, put like an ad in the paper. They somehow found out that this guy's looking for a relationship and he has a hard time finding one. I don't know how big online dating was around the time that this movie came out. I'm assuming it's very minimal since the internet was still pretty new around this time the movie came out. I think this movie came out in 2001, so the internet was only around for a couple of years by then. Um, so this guy, he's looking for a relationship. He's quite far into his life now. You'll find out the guy is played by Steve Buscemi, who's having this relationship trouble, and he just wants to find somebody to settle down with, get married to, hopefully share a passion with this music that he collects, that he's been collecting for these several years. And so basically, the Thora Birch character of these two girls really wants to help him out. She's kind of secretly attracted to him. You'll find out more throughout the movie. She wants to help the guy out. She's attracted to him. She kind of gets jealous of all these women that she helps set him up with for these dates and stuff. And Scarlett Johansson finds a job at this coffee shop of some kind, just kind of temporarily to make some money. So if her and Thora Birch were to move out like they were thinking about, that would be more of a possibility. While Thora Birch still looks for a job while she's pursuing her job. Um, so there's all these little different side plots going on in this too. Like Thora Birch, I guess, needs to take a summer school course in art since she didn't pass that in her senior year of high school. So she has to take that over the summer so she could be an official graduate of that high school. So a lot of little small stuff like that going on. Bob Balaban's in the movie too. For those who saw Moonrise Kingdom, he plays Thora Birch's father in this. Um, so for Ghost World, you guys, I really was not. I've seen the director of the movie was Terry Zwigoff, and Terry Zwigoff has done the Crumb documentary. For those who saw that, it was basically a documentary about Bob Crumb, and I really enjoyed the Crumb documentary. In fact, if you look on my YouTube channel, it should be down way down. In my movie reviews, my older ones. I really enjoyed Crumb, and so I went into this movie being pretty optimistic, and I kind of was let down by it, to tell you the truth. So, but for the positives and negatives of this film, for the positives, I really liked the underground comic vibe of the movie. I really liked how this film really felt like you're watching a live action comic book. I've seen some of the illustrations used for the Ghost World comic book back when that was made, and it really does kind of have that look that comic had. So as far as look goes, Terry Zwigoff definitely went to some pretty big lengths to make sure that his film looked a lot like the comic book. These are some great looking sets. What they kind of did with these, at least from what I was able to see, was they were able to get like real life towns and cities, things that actually look like these worlds inside the comic book world that they used for this. And they kind of, if they're in a coffee shop, and in the comic book, if the illustrator used a unique way of creating the typography for the cafe logo that they walk into and stuff. They went to great lengths to make sure that those things looked like they were from the comic book and things like that. So once again, great looking set. Visually, I have no complaints about the movie. There were some certain tackled ideas that the film took on that were a little interesting. I like, people feeling out of place with the world, and post high school, early college jobs that people take on. I thought that aspect of life was taken on pretty appropriately. So but especially the people feeling out of place. That idea is tackled a lot in this movie. And then towards the end of the film, without spoilers, of course, I like how the film kind of has this theme of, everything will eventually become satisfying to someone at some point. Even if your life isn't perfect, even though if it isn't the dream job you've always wanted or the perfect college to get into, there's going to come a point, even if it's all these horrible things like what's happened to Thora Birch throughout the film, even if it's just a series of really horrible things and it goes on for a really, really long time, there's going to come a point where things do start to get good again and at least become satisfying where you're at least at a point in your life where you can say to yourself, I can do this and I can really take on what's going on here. And, I can be happy with this aspect of my life. And if I can still get through this other thing that's still hard, I can still enjoy that thing that I really enjoy doing and things like that. So I kind of like how this film kind of tackles those ideas, though obviously those ideas could have been tackled much better. It still tackles them, and I do like how they've at least tried to take on those things. Now for the negatives, since I do have quite a few of them, the script of this film is really dull. I was really not impressed with the script at all. Most of the time, Thora Birch and Scarlett Johansson are just wandering around and trying to figure out what they can even do for the day and stuff. And though some people might find that to be kind of funny, it kind of got on my nerves after a while just because they did it for so long and there's so many scenes where they're just doing absolutely nothing, and it just kind of drove me nuts to tell you the truth. Um, I don't like how the film just meanders along and it doesn't really go anywhere. That's another disappointing thing about the movie. Like even by the end of the film, like nobody really accomplishes anything, so I really wasn't too happy. Um, there were several dull, unlikable, and worthless characters in the film. I'm going to point out one of them was actually even on the cover here. This guy right there. He basically shows up during the gas station scenes that Renfro works at, that the two girls like to go visit every once in a while. He literally is just there for the joke and he leaves. And he has no shirt on, he has a pair of nunchucks, and almost every joke that he's in involves that. And his character really got on my nerves. There was no point for the character, and if there was a point for the character, more than likely it was just for the comic relief, which ultimately did not work for me too well. Um, and that goes to my next point. This one really has a very bad sense of humor. I don't know if the graphic novel or the comic book or whatever this was based off of had that same sense of humor. Um, Being that Terry Zwigoff took on Crumb with a really good documentary, and though Crumb really wasn't a comedy, um, there was a lot of more intriguing factors about that film that I really wish would have transferred into Ghost World just as well as it did into Crumb, and I didn't see that side of Terry Zwigoff that much in this. So, sense of humor wise, I was pretty let down here. Another thing that the film did too, that a lot of films these days also tend to do, is almost every good joke or every potentially good joke was spoiled in the trailer pretty much. So that was kind of a letdown for me as well. And then I mentioned this earlier. This film really has no sense of accomplishment. I really didn't get any sense of characters learning from their mistakes or anything. Though there was a theme of the film that was covered loosely toward the end, I don't think that theme was enough to really make up for all this dull content that happened throughout the movie. So that was pretty a letdown for me. Um, Another thing I wanted to bring up too is almost everything in this film was done better in American Splendor and in Her, the Spike Jonze recent film that he took on. Both those films, even Scarlett Johansson is in Her, for example. Um, I thought both those films took on, like loneliness and, life not being perfect and things like that. And even American Splendor had it was based off an underground comic book that I really like. And that just goes back to my point that this film really could have been so much more than what it was. and I really was not too happy with what I saw. So I'm going to give Ghost World a 5.5 out of 10. I think it's a visually good looking movie. I think there's some interesting ideas that were sprinkled in every once in a while that could have been done much, much better, obviously. And there were some themes that were pretty interesting for the most part, but the dull script, the unlikable characters, the worthless characters, the film not really accomplishing anything, the film not really going anywhere, was ultimately what let me down about this movie. And I really wish that Terry Zwigoff himself would have made a much more interesting script before making this. Like I said, I have no idea how dull or interesting or even funny the Ghost World graphic novel is. Hopefully, that's better than the movie because the movie I just saw really was not that good. I think Scarlett Johansson herself has done a lot better films than this. Same with Thora Birch and almost everybody involved. So Ghost World, 5.5 out of 10. You can skip this one. It really isn't worth your time. I'm probably going to sell my copy of this. I was really not impressed with it that much. So Ghost World, skip it.